All right, chapter 2. A lull had fallen on Market Road when he walked back home at a little past 7:30. A lull had fallen. What do you mean by a lull? A lull here would be a calm, a quietness, a kind of a pause, right? A kind of a placidity is taken over the Market Road, which he's walking, right? Back home a little past 7:30. So the shop is closed at 7:30, and he's leaving the shop right now and going home. So the road and the environment is the ambience is quiet and calm. That's what lull means, calmness, right? Uh, an enormous shaft of blue light fell on the road from the Krishnan dispensary. And while he was walking home, right, he saw an enormous shaft of, I mean, like a big beam, a heavy beam of blue light was emanating or just coming out from the Krishna dispensary. He was passing the Krishna dispensary. He noticed Dr. Krishna at his table peering at the throat of a patient while he was just moving, right, going home. He could see from the road inside the dispensary where Dr. Krishna is looking into a patient's throat, right? Peering means looking into. A street dog lay snoring on a heap of stones on the roadside. And by the way, there was after the Krishna dispensary, what he saw was a stray dog, sorry, a street dog, and he was snoring. I mean, like he's just making a noise. He was in a sound sleep. The dog was asleep on the roadside. Kept there, yeah, street dog was snoring on the heap of stones on the roadside, and these stones are kept there since the first municipal body was elected in Free India in 1947. So these stones have not been used for any construction, right? It was there since 1947. I mean, like when this municipal council was elected for some construction, they have just brought these stones somewhere around 1947, and it was still lying there. I mean, certain situations are similar even to today, Sri Lanka, even, right? In some parts of this country, even some constructions have been dragging for so long, right? And the same way, this construction has been dragging since 1947, when India was being free. From that day on till today, right? This novel come as is written somewhere around 1960s, right? For a quick review. So stones has been staying there for a long time and meant for paving the road. So these stones were brought here just to make or pave the road, means just to make it level, right? Just make the road constructions. A light was still seen under the door of Truth Printing, although it was shut in deference to the Shopping Hours Act. I mean, like a light also seen, another light was seen in another place in this Malguri town. When he was going home, when Jagan is going home, he saw another light still in the Truth Printing Press. I mean, like according to this Malgudi Shopping Hours Act, the shops can't be open in odd hours. There's a specific time where a shop should be open. There's a specific time where a shop should be closed. In between, every shop owner has to agree. Every shop owner has to act according to the Shop Hours Act. But anyway, this Tooth Printing Press is still open, and Jagan knew if he knocked, Nataraj would open the door, and he definitely knew who's the owner of the Truth Printing Press is Nataraj. If he knocked on the door, right, Nataraj would open the door. Uh, and he could always have the excuse of asking if the book was ready. And Jagan could ask from Nataraj, is my book ready? Right? It seems like the Jagan has given Nataraj a book to be printed some time back, right? And Nataraj haven't done it yet. The book had been in the press for years out of count. There you go. I mean, like for years and years and years, this book also has been dragging in this press without being printed, right? So years out of count, uh, in years out of counting, Jagan can't remember how many years has this book been in this press, right, without being printed. And his magnum opus on nature cure and natural diet. We'll underline this sentence, right? His magnum opus of nature cure and natural diet. Magnum opus means what? Magnum opus is the best work of an author. For example, even I dislike what is the magnum opus of Hitler is Mein Kampf. It's like My Struggle. It's like his best known work in the entire world, right? So for him, for Jagan, here the magnum opus, his best work ever written is the Nature Cure and Natural Diet. So he has written a book on nature cure, means how nature can cure illnesses, right? Swabhavika Roga Nivarana Krama, and a natural diet. I mean, like how to die. I mean, like have this natural food, right? And diet yourself. This is his best book, but still Nataraj has not touched that book. I mean, like it may be. Nataraj even has lost interest in it, it seems, right? Unless, I mean, like what happens in a press is maximum 2 3 weeks you can publish a book, even at old days, right? Even they didn't have this modern technologies or digital technologies. They have to fix the what you call these letters, right? One by one in those old kind of printers, but still it didn't take that much time, right? So this book has not been published for a while. And Jagan knew that Nataraj would say that he was waiting for types, but he could not always sit down in one of his chairs and discuss politics. But yeah, if Jagan asks like what happened to my book from Nataraj, Nataraj can always say again that he was waiting for types. He was waiting this for this specific types of fonts and everything, right? This word structures. But he could always sit down in one of his chairs and discuss politics. But it's still no problem. I mean, like Nataraj is a friend of Jagan, and since we'll find it in the latter part of the novel, right? What's the relationship between these certain people, the lawyer, the Nataraj, and Jagan? What kind of a relationship is there? We'll find it somewhere else in the novel. But anyway, he's a friend. You can always sit in Nataraj shop, no problem, at any time, and talk politics with Nataraj. There's no objection. I mean, he's a friend, but still, but the book is not published, right? Uh, he overcame the temptation to passed on. I mean, like he overcame the temptation. Temptation means a kind of a seduction in his own mind. I mean, like he wanted to stop and talk with Nataraj, but he didn't stop. Instead, he uh, passed by. Right? He went off. Uh, must be a home. Must be home. The boy will be lonely. Jagan tell to himself, I must go home because my boy is alone at home. Not today. I'm not going to the printing press today. He fell into a brooding and introspective state as he walked on the edge of the road and was alone with himself. And while he was walking home, nowadays you have these vehicles and everything. Even those days, like if Jagan wanted, he could buy a car. Like he's a rich man, there's no problem in it. Like if he wanted a bicycle, he could buy a bicycle. But anyway, Jagan preferred to walk, right? And while he was walking home, uh, he was brooding. He was in a thinking mode. Brooding means he was in a kind of a thinking, kind of a sad kind of a thinking, right? And introspective means reflecting back into yourself is called introspective. I mean, there's something called it's the opposite of retrospective, right? Introspective means coming to yourself and just thinking about yourself. And he walked on the edge of the road and was alone with himself. Edge means probably the pavement, right? And he's walking on the pavement edge, and he was thinking about himself, while he was brooding, thinking, right? Uh, Juktas drove past them. Juktas are kind of carts, right? Uh, Juktas drove past him with the drivers urging their horses with the shrill cries, and then a few cycles, a scooter, and a couple of cars loudly honking their horns. There you go. So Juktas are carriers. Juktas are like horse carts, right? One horse cart, single horse carts, because two horses are used in carriages. Juktas are single horses. Carriages. Juktas drove past him with drivers urging their horses, means like urging and just hitting them just to make them move fast, with shrill cries and a sharp cries, maybe like ja 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 ja, something like that, right? And then a few cycles were passing him, and a scooter passing him, and a couple of cars loudly honking, means loudly making their horns, were passing. So cars were there, bicycles were there. I mean, like kind of a still in the 1960s, right? Where the setting happens. It's a moderately progressive society, right? Malgudi. The traffic thinned and disappeared, and he knew that he had come past Kabir Lane. And this traffic is in the town, and it got thin, means it got sparse, it got lessened, mitigated, and disappeared. And that moment he knew he has passed the Kabir Lane. There are certain lanes, right? You find the Frederick Lowell statue in the middle of Malgudi, and along this statue there are certain lanes he has to pass just to go to his house. As no more light fell in the street from the shops at the junction of the Market Road and Lorry Extension, there was a short parapet over a culvert. All right. Now he's passing the Market Road junction, right at the Market Road junction, and the Lorry Extension. Lowry extension comes, the names come from Frederick Lowry, right? He's a British uh, figure. Mm, and what happens is he is passing these lanes, and there was a short parapet over a culvert. What is a parapet? It's a short wall. In your schools, you have parapets, right? Separating the classrooms. Podi bagathap, anniya thamai parapets, right? Not a big wall. That's the difference between a wall. Wall can rise to a huge length, but a parapet is always a half of it, right? Uh, and over a culvert. What is a culvert? Write down the word culvert if you don't know. It's a totally enclosed drain under a road. It's like a drain covered, right? Totally enclosed means covered. ඒ කියන්නේ වහපු කානුව. කානුව යටින් යනවා. ඒවට පාරේක වහලා තියෙනවා. That's a culvert, right? So near a parapet, a short parapet over a culvert, uh, the usual vagrant was sitting on it. I mean, like there's always this vagrant. Who is a vagrant? A person, a kind of a bigger person, doesn't have a house. Who's always loitering around, right? And just asking means and asking alms from other people. He's a vagrant. It's almost another word for a beggar. And a vagrant was sitting on it, staring at passers-by and spitting into the gutter. And this guy is like, is this beggar at the night is looking at the passers-by who's passing and spitting into the gutter, and always just imagine, right? It's his way, right? And spitting into the gutter. Gutter is a drain, right? It's a water drain and the gutter. And the donkey stood beside the wall of it. And near this wall, there was another thing. The donkey was standing, right? Uh, and what happened? Yes, and donkey stood beside the wall as if it were offering itself for a target practice. I mean, like a donkey is here, the culvert is close by, and the beggar is on the wall. තාප්පයක් උඩින් ඉඳගෙන හිඟන්නේ කානුව ළඟ ඉන්නවා. බූරුවෙකුත් අර පැත්තේ ඉන්නවා. බූරුවගේ බූරුවට නෙමෙයි කානුවට තුක් 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 ගාලා කියලා ගහනවා as if it target practice. I mean, like you know what is a target practice, right? As if just to practice is target. හරියට කෙල ටික උඩින් ගිහින් කානුවට වැටෙන practice කරනවා වගේ නිකන් ඩොන්කියෙකුත් එතන ඉන්නවා, right? And just imagine the situation. It's like a funny situation, right? Image is funny, kind of a preposterous situation, right? Jagan knew what the vagrant was waiting for. Jagan knew why this vagrant is spitting and still waiting, right? For the dinner leaves to be cast out of the homes of Kabirsti. He is waiting for the houses to throw the dinner leaves after they are having the dinner at the midnight, at the night, when they are throwing it. That's why this guy is sitting on the parapet and waiting for, right? The Kabir street. He would collect them and scour them. Scour means rub them. He's covering, means imagine this is the a leaf, right, with all this leftover food. Scouring means putting your hand and just pulling up stuff, right? Scouring. It's like kind of a Scooby. Cover them with his hands and fill his belly with any vegetables and rice that might be left on them. So that's why he's depending himself on the leftovers, right? Uh, Yes, left on there. The remedy would be for our nation to change its habits. Now, Jagan is thinking, introspective. We know Jagan, while walking, he was thinking for himself, right? This is another characteristic of Jagan. He is kind of brooding sometimes. When he's alone, like he has so many other problems inside his head, right? Working at the same time. So he was thinking about the remedy would be the answer should be for this problem of vagrants, our nation to change its habits for people to eat off plates and not to use leaves for this purpose. I mean, like if India, post-colonial India, stopped using leaves and started eating in plates, I mean, it will discourage this vagrant. So vagrant will not stay for food because there's no leaves to be thrown out if people ate on plates, right? So Jagan is thinking that's the best solution for this problem, a social problem. So plates could be washed and kept. Understood, right? You can wash and keep the plates. And unlike the leaves which are thrown out after dinner for vagrants to pick. So if they have plates, it's a permanent one. People don't throw plates after eating, right? So then vagrants will not get food like this. So they will not stay in this place and they will find any other ways to just survive, right? So it's how to discourage this vagrant problem, is how to discourage these beggars, thinks Jagan. Then Jagan reflected, means Jagan started thinking. He was for a moment racked with the problem of national improvement in various directions. I mean, like now he's thinking about national improvement. Like ජාතිය නගා සිටීමේ වැඩ පිළිවෙලක් ගැන මිනිහා ගොළුවේ මිනිහා හිතන්න ගන්නවා දැන්, right? While going home, right, where he's after work, he has some other big projects, right, going on inside his head, right? That's the funny aspect of this person as well. If everyone discarded dining leaves, now he's doing the calculation, he's doing the reckoning inside his head. If everyone discarded dining leaves, means like if everyone threw away the dining leaves, everyone stopped using dining leaves. I mean, like, forget Jagan thinking about stopping dining leaves. I mean, like, even in today, right, it's a part of Indian tradition. I mean, like, even for the festival of Diwali, or if in an Indian festival like Onam, right, it's the tradition just to serve the food in a kind of a banana leaf, right? It still happens. It's still a means of a traditional way. Even in we nowadays we used plates and everything, but that part from the past still exists as a cultural habit. Even you, if anyone from the, I mean, a northern part of this country, just by accident, just stumble on this videos, right? It's your part of culture. Even for us, like even for Sinhalese people at a certain time, right? They use these banana leaves as a means of eating for the new year, just to make this milk rice and things like that, right? They use it. So it's there. So Jagan thinks like stopping this, completely eradicating these things, right? Discard these dining leaves will help it. And again, he thinks if everyone discarded dining leaves, those engaged in the leaf trade would be thrown out of their profession, and an alternative engagement would have to be found for them. Now, there's a problem. These dining leaves is a business itself. It's like lunch sheets, right? Nowadays we use lunch sheets, no? But lunch sheets doesn't automatically come to us, right? There are certain people who are engaged in just preparing these lunch sheets and making these lunch sheets, producing these lunch sheets, transporting these lunch sheets, and this is a business, some kind of business. So some livelihood is always focused around this lunch sheet. Same way, some livelihood, some jobs are there with this leaf industry. I mean, like people are making leaves for daily consumption, but still there are some people doing this job. So if we are going to prohibit these things, I mean, like those people will lose their jobs. So Jagan thinks like, okay, we have to think about something alternative, means something kind of optional way of giving these people their jobs, stop this project of discarding dining leaves, right? So that's what he's thinking. Too much for a vendor, right? While he's going home thinking these things, right? But first, it's not the end. He goes further with this concept, right? But first, statistics should be taken for the percentages of the population eating of leaves. Now he says, like he thinks, okay, for stopping this, first of all, we have to do a calculation and find out how many people are eating on dining leaves, right? Eating on these leaves. And those who eat of plates, then what kind of plates? And if people are eating on plates, what kind of plates should be introduced for them? Like, is it silver plates? Is it aluminium plates? Or kind of what metal? Is there any other metal like should be introduced? So much, right? So much stuff inside his head. Uh, How many were engaged in gathering the dry leaves from the forest of Mempi and stitching them with little splinters? And he's thinking like, okay, how many other people are engaged in going to the jungle? Mempi is a jungle here. Mempi is a kind of a forest. It's not a, yes, it's a forest of Mempi. It's not even jungle. It's a thick place where it's even dense than a jungle. Where a lot of trees are there. So some people go, woodcutters go to Mempi, cut down some trees, and that's how they find the wood parts for these dining leaves. So you should know by now, dining leaves are not just ordinary leaves. නිකම්ම නිකන් කොළයක් ගැන නෙමෙයි මේ කතා කරන්නේ. කේල් කොළයක් වුණත් ඒකේ තියෙනවා just like splinters. I mean ඒකේ leaf frame එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒ frame එක උඩ තමයි මේ කේල් කොළේ යන්නේ. Right? So it's like a almost a discardable, I mean like a disposable kind of a plate, right? So people has to daily use it. That's it. It's a That's the idea here, right? So it's not just a leaf, right? So some other people, woodcutters are also involved in this, right? They are stitching them with the little splinters. Right now, splinters is a small, thin, sharp bit of wood is called splinters. පතුරක් කියලා කියන්නේ, right? When අපි ලී පතුරු කියන්නේ, ඒ පතුරුත් ඕන වෙන මේ dining leaves හදන්න. එතකොට මේක business එකක්. මේක එකපාරට නැති කරගමන් වෙන්නේ මේකත් එක්ක ඉන්න කට්ටියගේ ජීවිකාව නැති වෙනවා. ඉතින් මෙයා හිතනවා දැන් Jigan Hitana is like, what should I introduce? Like, what should we take into consideration? If we are going to give them plates, what kind of plates? Is this aluminium plates people should receive, or is it silver plates, or any other kind of metal should be used, right? So many things, right? That's how his head works. And how many cultivating special banana leaves used for dining? And he's thinking like, how many in cultivating special banana leaves? There's a special cultivation also going on. Some are just cultivating banana plants just for the leaf purpose, not for the bananas itself, not for the fruit, but sometimes for the leaves itself, because this is a business, right? And he's thinking about those things. Till all this was done on a national scale, this vagrant would continue to remain here. So he's thinking like, oh my God, until all this happened in a national scale, ජාතික මට්ටමින් ව්‍යාපෘතිය වෙන්නේ නැතිකල් මේ හිතන්න මෙතන හැමෝම ඉන්නවා කියලා එයා හිතනවා, right? That's what Jagan thinks. Yeah. Late in the night, he emerged from this culvert, and went down the streets crying at every door, "Oh, good mother, give a handful of rice for this hungry one." I mean, like, this is how the beggar importunes. This is how the beggar asks for his food, right? And every night, right, when late in the night, he emerged from his culvert, means he came out of his culvert. He just got out of his this drain, right? This drain and this parapet, and went to houses and start to beg, right? Every door, "Oh, good mother, give a handful of rice for this hungry one," right? He's playing his own tune, right? The same old tune for asking. He had a deep voice which penetrated the door and reached the kitchen beyond. And his voice is so sharp. He has practiced this, right, so much. When he speaks at the front door, his voice from the front door to the living rooms and to the rooms transports or goes directly to the kitchen where the women are, right? The women folk are. So he's good at his skill. He's good at his begging skills, right? His voice is very good. His voice is very loud, right? And reached the kitchen beyond. His tone also quiet and troublesome children, as he was described to be a man with three eyes. Like when his voice, right? He has is a strong voice, but uh, he has another aspect, right? Uh, is that he worked as scaring children. If a child is crying, if a child is not obedient, maybe their mothers are saying, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you hear that guy? He has three eyes. He has come here, right? Be careful now, unless he'll take you away." I mean, like your mothers and fathers did the same thing to you, නේ? අර ගෝනි බිල්ල එනවා කියන්නේ නේ. ඒ වගේ එකක් තමයි මේ. ඔන්න ඇස් තුනක් තියෙන එක ආයනවා. දැන් කෑ ගන්න නැත්නම් එපා අල්ලයි right? Something like that. So ඒ කියන්නේ ළමයි බය කරන එකත් මේකගේ ජොබ් එකේ part එකක් මට හිතෙන්නේ, right? That's what I mean, like he's getting uh, uh, it's a kind of extra. He's going for begging, but the parents are and other people are taking use of, scaring the children. ළමයි බය කරන්නත් මේකම යොදා ගන්නවා, right? Quiet and troublesome children, as he was described to a man with three eyes. He is a disgrace to the nation. I mean, like Jagan thinks like this guy is such a shameful thing to the Indian nation. Like he don't like people begging, right? If you he always discourage it. He dislike it. That man has to find his own means of supporting himself. I mean, like Jagan in that case, like he even makes his own clothes, right? I mean, like when he sees a beggar asking for things, there's nothing wondering or nothing amusing that he is offended by this sight, right, of a beggar. And Jacob commented with himself, and by the time he reached the statue of lowly, the furlong, write down furlong. What do you understand? It's a unit. It's a unit of measuring, like uh, like kilometers. It's like 220 yards is called a furlong. Those are kind of old, post-colonial kind of old days of measuring distances, right? So and he reached the statue of Lowly. Before long, he's passing off now. He said, throbbed with several national and human problems and their ramifications, right? So inside Jagan's head, right? So many national problems, so many thoughts, so many things like this circulate sometimes. And all the national problems, human problems, and their ramifications, underlying ramifications, if you don't know, ramifications are means outcomes. For certain things, there are so many ramifications, so many outcomes, right? In other words, ramification means outcomes. So he was thinking about the outcomes, I mean, like the national solutions, and after the solution, what will be the outcomes, right? He's thinking inside his head while he was still walking home. He's still walking home, right? Can you remember? After the shop, he's still walking, right? While he was walking, so many things hits his head, right? And at this moment, Sir Frederick Lowley faced the city. Sir Frederick Lowley means a statue here. It's like a big statue. That's a landmark of his place. I mean, like, okay, how can I explain this to you? Nowadays we have landmarks, right? Maybe the clock towers. Okay, you have clock towers at the middle of a city. That's a landmark. That's how I identify a land. And there are certain statues, right? You can identify certain places. For example, if you go to the Fort Railway Station, in front of Fort Railway Station, there's a person with a big beard, right? So that's a landmark. And same way, imagine, but not that small, but this Frederick Lowley statue is a big statue, right? It's many times bigger than that one, and it's there. And Jagan has reached this Frederick Lowley statue here, right? So Frederick Lowley face the city means his statue is face towards the city. His back was supported to be the back beyond at one time. His back was supposed to be the back of beyond one time means like when his back side, I mean like his other side, not the face side, but the back side is support. I mean like there was nothing sometime back behind that statue. But the limit of city's expansion, I mean, that was the city, the limit of the city. Behind this, his back, there was no constructions at a certain time when Jagan was small. But now things are changed, right? But this prophecy was confounded when Lowry extension, south extension, the new extension, all stretch beyond the statue. Now things are different from old days. In old days, this big statue of Frederick Lowry was there. Only the front, he was facing the town, right? At that time. But now, apart, I mean, all circling this statue, I mean, all around this statue, from this side of the statue, right? I mean, this side of the statue, this side of the statue, front side, the back side, everything, everywhere is populated. That's the idea. People live here. And lower extension, south extension, north extension, new extension, all stretch beyond the statue. And Jagan's ancestral home means old home, his father's home, which had been the last house outskirting the city. I mean, at that time when the father built, it was the last house in the city of this Malgudi. I mean, it's the faraway house from the Lodi statue. It is the furthest. But now things are changed. I mean, like city became the first one for all new colonies. I mean, now it's not the last house. I mean, like so many other houses are extended. It means it's spreaded out to the uh, other sides, right? So that's how things go on here. As Jagan approached the statue, he felt a thrill, not at the spectacle of the enormous gentleman standing in the Napoleonic attitude, uh, benignly surveying the history and fortunes of Malgudi in the grand sweep. Jagan has ceased to notice the statue for over 40 years now, but because he anticipated a glimpse of his son Mali on the other side of the statue. So while he is going home now, right? Something when he approached the statue, Jagan sees something fascinating, something interesting, and he felt a thrill by seeing that sight. I mean, like he felt fascinated, he felt enthralled, right? A thrill, uh, not at the sight of the statue, but something else. I mean, like the statue is of an enormous gentleman. It's a massive, it's a colossal gentleman standing in a Napoleonic attitude. Means we are referring to great Napoleon, right? The warrior, who is a brave figure, right? Uh, just like that brave figure in a Napoleonic attitude, in a kind of conquering attitude, in a kind of victorious attitude. Say Frederick Lord is like, with all this grandeur, right? Looking at the city, but that's not what thrilled Jagan. He saw something behind it, right? The grand shape, Jagan ceased to notice the statue of 40 years now. I mean, like every day he's passing this statue, right? While he's going home. So he stopped to notice this statue and its grandeur and everything. But he saw something else because he anticipated a glimpse of his son Mali on the other side of the statue. Now, while he's passing the statue silently, somewhere around 7:30, he he mostly sees his son near the statue, right? And what happens is the pedestal had broad steps all around. In this statue, is a kind of a meeting place for this Malgudi. Every person's from every extension, every road. Extensions are road, North Road, South Road, like Lowly Road. That's what we call the extension, right? People from these roads comes and sits near in the pedestal of this, had broad steps all around. I mean, pedestal means the support. Uh, when it's a statue, the statue has to stand on a support, right? A square. Statue එක පාදමක් කියලා එකක් තියෙනවනේ. That's the pedestal, right? So in this pedestal, people sit. Imagine there's a huge, in our case, how to understand this? Okay, imagine a big Buddhist statue, Buddha statue, right? On the basement, on the pedal, on the pedestal, right? There are some steps. People can sit on these steps and under this big statue. So imagine such a big statue as Frederick Lowry statue, and underneath the pedestal, I mean, like there are stairs, there are steps, not stairs. I'm sorry about the word. I mean, like steps are there. people can sit on the steps and talk, right? So that's what happened. So many people flock around here, gather around here in the evenings, right? Just to have a, because this is the only place they have. They don't have a beach, right? They don't have other places to travel. This is the, this is a kind of public place. Statue එකේ යට ඉඳගෙන පොඩි කයියක් ගහලා හුලං වැදිලා හවස පොඩි ජොලියක් අරගෙන තමයි යාලා ගෙදර යන්නේ. Kind of resting place, right? Imagine such a place. Just like you guys go for golf, right? Uh, but because he anticipated a glimpse of his son Mali on the other side of the statue, the pedestal had broad steps all around and served as a park bench for the young and the old of the neighborhood. So it's a neighborhood, right? I mean, like it's a park. It's like a park bench. It's like people are going to the park. Same way they are coming to visit this Lori statue in the evenings to have a small rest, right? Who are coming here? Pensioners, people who are retired, idlers, people don't have work, tired workmen, after day's work, they need a little rest, they come here, sickly citizens, they need to have this relaxation, right? Recreation, so they come, sick people come here, advised by their doctors to inhale fresh air, sat facing east, west, north, south on the steps. ඒ කියන්නේ සමහරු උතුරු බලාගෙන සමහරු north, west, east, I mean like all over this statue, on the bottom of the statue, එක එක්කෙනා එක එක පැති බලාගෙන, just like so many people, so many different people, right? Relaxing. And students leaning on their cycles form a group of the southern steps. On the southern part of the steps, there's another set of people. Who are these? Students who has, after the school, they also come here, right? Just for some relaxation. So, yeah, students leaning. They're leaning means they're keeping their backs on the, they're keeping they're supporting themselves, right? On the cycles formed in a group on southern steps, all dressed in tight trousers and colorful shirts. I mean, like they're dressed in tight. That's the fashion of that times, right? I mean, like young boys, like even you like fashions, right? So they are dressed in colorful shirts and dress trousers, tight trousers, and hotly discussing film stars and cricket and fashions in dress and deportment. Right. So, what are they discussing? They are gossiping. They are talking about cricket stars, even at that time, right? Cricket is a big sport in India. That's what you have to understand. Like even you guys when you meet, right? Kohan macha match එක. Maruවට අර එක back කරානේ. And I mean like like nice shots. And they are talking about not only that, film stars. I mean like Shah Rukh Khan, Lasana, handsome, right? Things like that. I mean like Shah Rukh Khan is at that time. I'm just like giving you some examples, right? What you guys do when you, I mean, or just talk about a kind of a Korean actors and actresses, right? That's what you do nowadays. I know, right? Because I have seen those things happen between my students, right? And all this gossiping, right? About new fashions and modes and fashions and fads, right? And deportment, write down what is deportment. A way of person behaves towards after people conduct, right? Their demeanors. I mean, like how a way the person behave is called a deportment. Some actors have certain deportments, right? Some actors have certain ways of behaving. අපි දැක්කම රජිනිකාන්ත්, right? ෆිල්ම් එකකට ආවට පස්සේ ගාලා යනවා. අර නිකන් සිගරට් එක මෙහෙම කරලා දාගන්නවා. ගාලා එනවා. Then he just switch on the lighter and just look around and just it as සරමුස්සල ගන්නවා and just start to fight. I mean, like now young guys like these things, right? Young guys, I mean, like if you are a really film fan, right? And on if Rajinikanth is really young at that time, right? You see this thing, oh, our action, right? Just like a cigarette, right? Those are called the deportments. I mean, like the activities, the way a person behaves towards other people or conduct. I mean, like the way, right? Dresses and deportments, how they behave. These actions, right, are called deportment. So, I mean, like that's the idea. So, these are the things these guys talk around, right? Kids talk around at that time. I mean, maybe the subjects are different, but still you guys do the same thing, right? Jagan passed the statue on his north side so that he might not embarrass his son. I mean, like he so his son is there near the statue, but he's going from the north side without embarrassing means without making his son shy. I mean, like he feels like if he goes towards his son and talk to him, it will make him shy. So he's like a secret father looking at his son, but still going to his home, right? Without embarrassing his son. Now, if you are there, right, with your friends, and if your father see, will he just walk around without making you embarrassing, right? Uh, what happens is mostly තාත්තයි ඇවිල්ලා දැන් ඔබ මොකද්ද මෙතන කරන්නේ? මොකද ඔබ රස්තිය දුගන්න පලයන් ගෙදර, right? That's what they that's the normal response of the fathers, right? But here Jagan is different, right? He looks at it, he sees it, okay, that's good. But he, without disturbing, without making the son embarrassed, he walks away, right? But he liked to make sure that he was there. But also Jagan felt like he wanted to show that son, he also saw Mali, right? With a swift glancing at the group, he spotted Mali by the deep yellow of his shirt, and the brief glimpse filled with him with joy. And he saw Mali in the yellow dress, right? He's wearing a yellow shirt, right? And that look itself, the sight, the image of his own son in yellow shirt made Jagan happy, right? Glimpse filled him with joy. He tiptoed away looking elsewhere. Tiptoed means like the idea here is like he walked silently. එහෙම නැතුව මේ කකුල් ඇඟිලි තුඩු වලින් යනවා කියන එක නෙමෙයි මෙතන කියන්නේ. That's the what we call, we have to understand, right? That sometimes it's the words are not what they literally mean, right? The implications when the context comes, its ideas can be different. Uh, it's what we call the poetic license, or what the author has this way of expressing things. So he tiptoed means like he walked silently without making any noise or without noticing, without making him noticed, right? Away from looking elsewhere, muttering to himself irrelevantly. And he's muttering means saying slowly, whispering, or just murmuring himself. Irrelevantly means out of this context, but still looking. So Mali there, he's happy, but he's saying to himself, poor boy, poor boy, let him be. අසරණ කොල්ලා, හසරණ කොල්ලා, අහිංසක කොල්ලා. ඔන්න ඔහේ ඉන්දෙද්දාවේ කියලා තමයි ඔය කියන්නේ, right? Let him be. He was very proud of his son's height, weight, and growth. I mean, like, Mali is well grown for his age now. I mean, like, has a good height, has a good weight, has a good growth. I mean, his father provides him, right? That's the reason. I mean, හොඳට කරදඬු උස්මහත් වෙච්ච කොල්ලෙක් දැන් Mali. There are others, but he stands out among them. The other friends are there, but ඒවා නිකන් නාටු වෙච්ච ගස් වගේ ඇති නේ නාටු පොල් ගස් වගේ ASCII Mali is a අර කරුට්ටම් වෙච්ච කොල්ලෝ කුරුට්ටෝ කියලා කියන්නේ අපි ඒකනේ කොල්ලෝ කුරුට්ටෝ කියලා කියන්නේ කුරුට්ටෝ කියන්නේ they are not very well developed. කොල්ලෝ කියන්නේ හොඳට හැදිච්ච ඒවා, right? කොල්ලෝ ASCII කුරුට්ටෝ කියන්නේ හොඳට හැදිච්ච නැති ඒවා, right? අර මේ Mali ඉන්නකොට Mali කොල්ලෙක් වගේ අනිත් ඒවා කුරුට්ටෝ වගේ. ඒක තමයි තාත්තට happy මෙතන, right? The height, weight, and growth makes him happy, right? And I wonder what God has in store for him. And Jagan thinks like, I don't know what God is planning for Mali. In other words, I don't know what Mali's future is going to be, right? God is planning for him. Because as a Hindu, he thinks the ultimate purpose or ultimate meaning of human life is on the God's hands, right? God is the one who's planned human life. So you can't plan it. You are acting out a God's plan in this earth. That's a Hindu belief, right? So he thinks like, that's why he thinks like God has what God has in store for him. He reflected, must give him more time. He reached home, his thoughts still hovering about his son. So he's passing his son, right? Before his son, now Jagan walks slowly towards his home, right? Now that's interesting. He has gone to the home, okay? And he left himself into his house, switched on the light in front of the room, took off his upper cloth and hung it on a nail in the wall, took off his jibba and thrust it into a basket for tomorrow's wash. So now Jagan has come to his home, right? He's alone, and he left. He let himself into the house. He took off his upper cloth and hung it on the nail on the wall, and took off his jibba, and you know what is jibba, right? And thrust it into a basket for tomorrow's wash. Those things are planned for tomorrow's wash, right? And he passed through the ancient house, and he walks through the ancient house through its triple series of open courtyards and corridors. Not like nowadays, right? Nowadays houses are just like boxes, right? You don't have these open courtrooms and open corridors, right? I mean, like in old days, if you have seen Wallowers, right? If you have those education trips to uh, see this, I mean, like places where these old people live, they have in the middle of the house, even they have a courtroom. I mean, like it's the space is open, there are so many corridors, right? I mean, like it's totally open, a lot of wind, it's open to the environment, it's open to the inflow of the wind, right? That's how the old houses are constructed. We see the same thing here. And he's passing with these triple corridors, right? And reached the back door, lifted the crossbar. I mean, you know what's a crossbar, right? That's pole, that's kind of a bar that locks the doors, right? In old days, right? In old houses, they had this crossbar. You can make haras polla dala thamai lock karane, not like this our locking mechanisms right now. And let it down gently, slowly took it down, and he stood for a moment gazing at the stars. He came out and start gazing means looking at the stars. And enthralled means fascinated, elated, happy, being excited at the spectacle means view. He's fascinated by the view of the firmament. Firmament, right? The heaven is another word you know now, right? Constellation, you know that. It's like a spectacle. The celestial, celestial means heavenly. It's like heaven. We'll simply write down firmament means heaven. So he looked and looked to the heaven, it means look to the sky for a minute, right? One still wonders, he told himself. Everyone still wonders. Everyone is still fascinated by this. Thinks about it, the sky. One still wonders, he told himself, but the problem remains. Who lives in those? I mean, like he thinks like, who lives in stars? Who lives in these shiny objects in the sky? Uh, we are probably glimpsing the real heaven and don't know it. I mean, like he looks to the sky, right? Sees the stars and things like, I mean, I see the stars, and who lives in these stars? We are looking daily, looking to this, but we probably looking to, I mean, glimpsing the real heaven and don't know it. I mean, like how little we know about these stars and who live in these stars, right? Probably all our ancient sages are looking down at us. Ah, there you go. I mean, like he thinks like all the people who passed away, our great great grandfathers, right? Ancient people and like ancestors who has passed away must be looking us from the sky at this moment, right? Looking at down us. What are those constellations? He's thinking like, what are these star groups? Constellations means are star groups, right? It's like a collection of firmament, heaven. Constellations, you can easily write down if you don't know the word, means a group of stars. Constellations, like what are those constellations? What are this group of stars? Jay can think for himself. He couldn't be clear about them. I mean, like he's not that much familiar with the star shapes or the star patterns. His astronomy was limited to the location of the polar star from the Orion's belt or the Swordos or some such point for which knowledge he had been awarded second class badge many years ago when he was a scout. I mean, like Jacob doesn't know much about astronomy, though he, I mean, like though his father was very familiar with astrology, Jagan don't know much about the sky, right? That's the idea here. And he doesn't know other than the polar star, Gravataru Toda Dekya Danitne, right? And you find this in the Orion's belt. You know what is Orion, right? The hunter. And you find these three stars as his belt. Uh, and now the sword or some point, other than that, he has no clue what are the patterns on the sky, right? And how did he got this knowledge was when he was at school as a scout, right? This knowledge was given him. You know, scouts they are teaching these skills, right? How to navigate in a darkness, just looking at the sky, right? They teach them these skills. Even a good scout knows these things, right? But he was not even a good scout, right? That's what you should understand. He's like a second class badge, like a second class badge. It's not a first class badge even, right? I mean, like හැමදේම වාගෙට කරපු මිනිස්සෙක් වගේ ඉස්කෝලේදී, right? And that's what I mean. Like good scout knows how to make knots, how to cook himself, how to survive, how to find himself if he's stranded in the jungle by looking to the stars. But this guy doesn't know that much of information, and he's only knowing the pole star and the Orion belt and things like that, right? His astronomy Orion from Orion's belt, yes. His astronomy did not progress beyond that. I mean, like there you go. He didn't study astronomy. That's why he was wondering, like, who's living in these stars. And as a science student, this is a ridiculous idea, right? No one lives on stars. Like people can't live on stars. It's excessive of 10,000 Celsius in a normal star, right? I mean, like anything metal will be if anything has a body will be vaporized instantly. So there are no people in stars. There could be, if there's a habitable planet, it's a very unlikely situation, right? Only there can be life. So Jagan thinks like his ancestors are out there, right? For a million and stellar bodies sparkling. Stellar bodies are just another word for what you find in the sky. Stellar means belong to the sky, right? Belong to the sun. It's like sun, other suns, other stellar bodies, right? Interstellar traveling means traveling between suns, right? So million stellar bodies sparkling, shining. As far as Jagan was concerned, they might not be more than two he had been taught to identify in the entire sky, right? In a normal natural day at this time, right? You normally approximately see somewhere around 3,000 stars in the sky, right? So most of them have named by humans, right? So they have names, they have their star constellations, but he can identify only kind of two stars, right, in the entire sky. So that's a little funny. In addition to Orion and the pole star, he often noticed an extraordinary, lively firework in the sky, which sometimes stood poised over the earth in the westerly direction. Other than these two stars, right, he also noticed another bright one. It's a very bright star. It's very shiny. It's like a firework in the sky. That's what he said. He thinks, right? It's like a firework in the sky. In other words, very bright. So what do you think this star is? Right? He sometimes called it Venus. Sometimes he called this star the evening star, Venus, right? And sometimes Jupiter. I mean, like he's not sure about it. Sometimes this star is the Jupiter for him, right? Never being sure, but admiring it unreservedly and feeling proud that he was also part of the same creation. I mean, like we all know, there's even a poem in the anthology called The Evening Star, right? So what he thinks is like Jagan feel proud about it, right? Oh my God, like how beautiful is this sky, right? Even my life and this earth belongs to this celestial body. The thought of it made Jagan happy, right? And he was thinking those things, right? And the same creation. So now can you remember when he was passing home, he saw like vagrants and eating problems, and he was wondering about that. And now when he's at home, while he was changing, he sees the sky and his thoughts are traveling on the other side of the scale, right? Other side of the spectrum. So how vivid is this character, right? That's what Arkinara hints us here. I mean, like that's what you have to understand, like how, in what kind of variations, in what kind of places is Jagan's mind is wandering, right? We'll keep that in our mind. And all this was a habitual second contemplation whenever he passed into the bathroom and the backyard. I mean, like whenever Jagan goes to the backyard in the bathroom, this is the way, this is the normal routine thoughts that comes to Jagan. It's like Jagan's habit, right? Uh, the bathroom was a shack, roofed with the corrugated sheets. Beaten out tin was fixed anyhow to a wooden frame to serve as a door on rusty hinges. The wooden frame was wrapped and the door never shut flush, but always left a gap through which one obtained a partial glimpse of another bathing. I mean, like when it comes to the bathroom conditions, it's not that standard bathroom conditions, right? What you understand is like bathroom is now another thing. Nowadays we have these attached bathrooms and everything, right? Sometimes ago, right? This concept of having now attached bathrooms make life easy, right? It is part of our household. So when we just feel like nature calls, it's very easy for us just to get rid of that burden. But in old days, right, they didn't think that having a washroom or having a ablution or having a ablution is another word for bathroom, so cleaning areas inside the house. It was a very unhygienic thing for them. ඒ කියන්නේ ඇහැත් පුළුවන් තරම් ඒ කියන්නේ පුළුවන් තරම් මේ ඈතට ගිහිල්ලා තමයි ඕක කරලා එන්න ඕන. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉස්සර টয়ලට් එකට යන්න ඕන නම් ගන්න ඕන බාල්දිය අරගෙන බාල්දිය වතුර පුරවගෙන හැතැම්මක් විතර විතර වැඩේ කරලා යන්න තමයි එන්න තමයි වැඩේ තියෙන්නේ පොඩ්ඩක් අර හදිස්සි වෙලා තිබ්බොත් මගදී යන සයිස් එකක් තමයි තියෙන්නේ. මොකද ඒක ඈතට හයි කරලා තියෙන්නේ ඈතට තියලා තියෙන්නේ as hygienic because it's a dirty part of the human body, so it should be very far away from the house, right? පුළුවන් තරම් ඈතට ගිහිල්ලා වැඩේ කරලා එන එක තමයි හොඳම දේ, right? So that's why it's just constructed like that. But now things have changed, belief systems have changed, right? It's just almost inside the rooms nowadays, right? And see the difference. So now, okay, coming back to this, this bathroom was a shack. Now when it comes to this bathroom, it's not a quality one, right? It's a shack, means it's a kind of a shoddy place. It's a kind of a tacky. It's a kind of a disheveled, untidy place, right? It's a shack. Roof with corrugated sheets. I mean, like this kind of metal. Corrugated metal means this kind of sheets with this designs on the sheets, right? Is on the top of it. Beaten out tin was fixed anyhow to the wooden frame to serve as a door on rusty hinges. ඒ කියන්නේ tin metal වලට ගහලා තලලා ඒව කොහොම හරි ලෑල්ලට අලවලා හයි කරලා එන ගහලා තමයි දොරවල් හදලා තියෙන්නේ, right? දොර හදලා තියෙන්නේ bathroom එකේ. Was fixed anyhow to a wooden frame to serve as a door on a rusty hinges, and the hinges are also rusty. I mean, like hinges, you know what is hinges, right? Where the door moves. දොර අසව් කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක තමයි hinges. ඒවත් මලකඩ කාලා ටින් වල ගහලා තමයි දොරේ දොර ෆ්‍රේම් එකට යකඩ ඒ කියන්නේ දොර කියන්නේ ලෑලි ෆ්‍රේම් එකකට ටින් තියලා තලලා එන ගහලා තමයි දොර හදලා තියෙන්නේ. දොර උස්සලා තියන්න ඕන නැති. නැත්නම් ඒක නිකන් අර hinges වල යද්දි rusty hinges නෙමෙයි. It's not just smooth hinges, it's just like rusty. So imagine the noise, imagine the uncomfortable, and the problem is this door doesn't totally fix or doesn't totally cover the bathroom. So when someone's inside the bathroom, it's half open, so you can half see who's inside the bathroom, right? So that's a funny thing, right? And no, I mean, that's it, right? Now you may laugh it. Now, if you go to some parts of India or even Sri Lanka, some parts, right? මේ අපි මේ bathroom වලට hina වෙනවා. සමහර මිනිස්සු දෙයට කක්ක බරුණාම ගිහිලා වැල්ලේ කක්ක කරලා රැල්ලෙන් පස්ස හොදගෙන එන්නේ, right? I mean, like, don't laugh, at least they have a little standard here, right? So that's the situation, right? So it's like half open here, and a partial glimpse is like partly you can see who is inside the bathroom and bathing from this structure. But it had been house practice. But it's a house practice, means it's a house rule in Jagan's family from the father's time, right? Who has built this was Jagan's father, this bathroom. House practice for generations, for his members not look through. I mean, like, if there's someone in the bathroom, I mean, like, it's the family habit. ගිහින් එබිල බලන්නේ කවුද ඉන්නේ කියලා, right? It's the family habit. So this bathroom remained very much what it had been in the days of his father. So since his father's time, this bathroom always had been the same, right? That's the idea here. Okay.